Welcome to the Tennessee Valley Football Podcast. This is Clint Guffey.
Nathan McLaughlin, what's up?
And today we're going to do like a little, not our normal long podcast episode, just so the listeners know we are not dead. We've just been real busy with school and work.
Real busy.
But today, there was a lot of 8A games, and last night as well. And then we're like a week out from the draft, and we're just going to talk briefly on Bama's 8A, some of the drama in the NFL, and then some of the draft.
Yep.
So start us off, Nathan.
Well, let's talk about the spring games that were going on. First off, we'll dive into Alabama, as I got to see a little bit of it while I was at work. Overall, statistically, I think White team beat the Crimson team 31-17. Really, pass rush wise, defensively, like both sides of the defense looked pretty good as far as pass rush. Now, at the same time, I mean, all you have to do is touch the quarterback to register a sack, but like it seemed like they were getting great pressure. They were setting the edge really well. Tua wasn't, world class like he usually is, but everybody's kind of making a big deal out of it. Like, oh my God, well, Tua's not playing well. It wasn't nothing about Tua not playing well. It's just, we're used to him being absolutely perfect, and it wasn't a perfect game. He's also going up against Alabama's defense and guys that have been going up against him in practice for years. So I thought he looked fine. He was missing a few of those deep throws, but they were also kind of covered up. There was a lot of drops today among the receivers, which was really uncharacteristic.
Jerry Jeudy had some.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy had a drop. That's pretty uncharacteristic, and the running game looked absolutely abysmal. It's not the running backs; it's the offensive line is not getting the push that they need. Now, Jedrick Wills was out on the right side of the line, but I mean, he's great. Don't get me wrong; he's one of the better offensive linemen on the team, but it still doesn't make any excuses because you plug in Matt Womack, who's had some starts, and I think he's definitely a decent run blocker. They just couldn't get any movement. Now you're going up against Alabama's front four, so that's one thing. But man, it just seems like Alabama has not had that offensive line push like they've had in recent memory. I want that to come back more than anything. I ain't worried about anything else, but I want that line push for that running game to come back. It's gotten
especially since now the formula is the formula to beat Bama is always great quarterback play, but now so much that teams know that if you hit Tua a few times, it throws them off.
Yep, it does. Tua's not saying I'm comparing the two, but Tua is like Tom Brady in that way, where if you finally start to get to hit him, like his timing starts to get disrupted. I think Tua is one of those that's like Tom Brady with excellent timing. As long as he's got the game plan down, he's able to hit timing, better than anybody. But when you start hitting him and throwing his timing off, that's when it starts to get a little bit hairy, and that's when the running game is going to have to come in, and they're going to have. It can't all just be Tua, and remind me. I want to go into Tua a little bit more in depth, just briefly. That's something that's really upsetting me about fans. That is, you probably already know. You or probably already have an idea of. But yeah, the thing about Tua is, if he does get thrown off a little bit, even as great as he is, he's going to have some help from time to time. He's going to have the running game is going to have to kick in and is going to have to help him out. That's all there is to it. He can't be perfect every single game.
No, and he played, half the season on a bum knee, so.
And still threw 43 touchdowns.
Yeah, and only played in technically like 8 games.
Exactly.
But that I think is part of him getting hit a lot because the offensive line has not been up to par. Has it been like the 2012 or the 2000? And I think the 2012 offensive line was really, really good. I think that's probably peak offensive line.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're losing Jonah Williams, but, and I think Alex Leatherwood and Jedrick Wills, I think, they're at the tackle spots right now. And I do think that they're great players. I think even though he had about 70 7 false starts in the playoffs. Jedrick Wills, I think, is probably one of the better offensive linemen out there as far as his blocking ability if he can get the snap count down. And I think Deontay Brown is great, especially in the run game, and he was miles better than Lester Cotton was last year. Um, I've heard good things about Chris Owens, the guy that's probably going to be taking over at center. He's been a swing tackle, swing guard, throughout his career so far. I think he's going to be a decent option, definitely. Now, is it going to be Ryan Kelly? I don't know, probably not, but I think he's definitely going to be a decent option filling in for what Pierce Baker was doing last year. Um, but it just seems it's been seeming like that offensive line is just not there. They're not there like they used to be. Even in 2015, the only bad part of the line in 2015 was Dominic Jackson at right tackle. It was a turnstile. All you had to do was push him over. All you had to do was throw your hip into him, and it's like a subway
too.
turnstile.
He was very
He was terrible, and somehow found a way on an NFL roster there for a little while. I don't know how. I do not know how, but even with him being terrible, they still had a great other four on the offensive line, especially Ryan Kelly. That's one of my favorite offensive linemen from the past, few years has been Ryan Kelly. He was always, whenever, he does get injured, but, when he wasn't injured, he was on fire. And then when he, when he did get injured, all they did was throw in Bradley Bozeman, who is a great offensive lineman too. I mean, I always liked Bradley Bozeman.
In the league, he's had a little bit of injury problems, but like this past season, the Colts when he was healthy, they were
dominant,
destroying people.
And Quentin Nelson's a big part of that too. Quentin Nelson's a great offensive lineman. I mean, he's already all pro. He's nasty. But that's what I really would hope Alabama would get back to, is being able to switch to that running game when they need to. It doesn't have to be all about Tua throwing for 400 yards.
That type of, probably you could say, recruiting mindset went away after probably 2015 with how their offensive line is. I don't know if this is just my opinion and observing, but how the offense really switched. I mean, it changed in 2014 because of
Lane Kiffin coming in,
and Blake Sims, and then it kind of switched back. Maybe you could say a little to the
in 2015 because they just let Henry carry the rock,
and then 2016 it's evolved as everything else.
In 2016, they probably didn't expect Jalen Hurts to start at quarterback. They fully expected Blake Barnett to be the starting quarterback.
Absolutely, I think they thought Jalen was going to be a developmental quarterback who started his senior year.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think that maybe the recruiting focus is not. I'm not saying that they're not going out and trying to get the best guys. But,
yeah, definitely. Because they've gotten they're 5-star guys.
Absolutely.
Leatherwood 5 stars. I think Jedrick Wills 4 or 5 stars. The center Chris Owens, I think, was 4 stars. They've got guys that were very highly recruited, but it's time. You got to put it all together.
I don't. Our sound is cutting out.
Looks like you kind of cut out a little bit there.
Time out.
And so
I don't know if it's like maybe the recruiting focus is, or maybe it's just coaching in general, but this high tempo offense that Bama has finally adopted. I mean, but you could also argue that Oklahoma had a really good offensive line this past year, and they were as high tempo as high tempo gets.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if maybe it's just the way the coaching has shifted. I don't know if the offensive line coaches are not as good as they were early on in Saban's career, and it's cutting out again.
Yeah, so right before we're going to go to Jalen Hurts, talk about his spring game at Oklahoma here in just a second. Before we do that, a thing that's just has really gotten under my craw. I don't know what it is. I don't know what has happened to Alabama fans, but I've never seen so much hate for a great quarterback in my entire life. when you go on Facebook and you go on these little
This is why
Alabama
this
Crimson
is why I
Tide
don't get on
things,
Facebook.
you go on there, and every time Tua is brought up, you got these people that just go on there and say, "Well, he's not good." Blah blah blah. He lost. They lost the championship game 40, and people saying 44-16 and stuff like that. Alabama fans, what has happened?
Well, that is a good segue into the topic
I
of,
mean,
of
I,
us being the Bama fan base being spoiled.
I mean, I love. Listen, I love Jalen Hurts, but where has this gotten to where since Jalen Hurts lost his quarterbacking job because to a better quarterback? I don't care what any of you say. I don't care what any of you say. I mean, he lost his job to a better quarterback. That's just period. You know, you can't just sit there and just play two quarterbacks the entire freaking time. Like that's gonna throw the entire rhythm of the offense off. You don't understand football. But for people to come out here and dislike such a great kid, I mean, a kid that Jalen is a fantastic human being, and then but people act like Tua is not. Like Tua is a fantastic human being, right there on the level with Jalen. And you got these people that just hate Tua for some reason because he lost the national championship game. Well, hey, newsflash: if Jalen Hurts would have stayed in against Georgia, they definitely would have gotten. They definitely would have lost. They were on pace to lose 26-0 there at halftime. Instead, Tua came in and won the game for them.
I don't understand why. I really don't. I think it's probably the same people that can't tell you who Brody Cole is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I just wanted to bring it up real quick. It's just something that's just so irritating.
It's the Bama fan base being spoiled and expecting,
And
just like when Saban talks about rat poison.
yeah, I mean, it's
the we demand excellence. We demand, and I hate to see whenever Bama starts to lose its crown. I hate to see the hate that Saban's going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
If Saban is still there.
I mean, he's the greatest. He's the greatest coach of all time at this point in college football.
Tua is the best quarterback to play at Alabama.
Tua is the best quarterback Alabama's ever had, and y'all are really going to squander it and be so ill that you won't even watch an Alabama game because you're mad Jalen lost his starting job. Are you kidding me? You got to be joking. Go be somebody. Go be an Oklahoma fan. If Jalen losing his starting job has irritated you that bad that you cannot stand Tua and you can't stand Alabama.
I guarantee you we could dig up tweets from 2 years ago when Jalen was not doing anything in the Georgia game, and people would be saying the same thing. You could just take Tua's name and put Jalen.
Saying the exact same thing.
So it's this just petulant fan base that we unfortunately have that are more than likely fair weather fans and have never experienced Alabama as a has-been and have never suffered through the years, the 6 in a row against Auburn and getting beat by Tennessee and UL Monroe, and you don't know. And you're not a true fan if you sit there and bash the greatest quarterback to play at Alabama, because obviously you're not talking about the coaching staff.
And bashing a great kid. I mean, the guy's got zero
he's
character
probably
flaws.
More religious than 100% of the people that are complaining about
his family moved here because of all the churches in Alabama, and that's one thing that I would have never expected. So you should be like, oh, well, he's a good Christian man because you know how Alabama is. But you turn around and you got all this hate for him because Jalen lost his starting job, and you're mad about that. Well, go be a fan of Oklahoma. We don't need you here.
Jalen was never a Heisman contender either. I don't understand.
I mean, it's just a facepalm.
I'm glad Jalen's having success at Oklahoma, but Jalen will not win a Heisman at Oklahoma like you idiots say. I don't understand. Like you said, I don't understand why. They're fair weather fans.
It's got to be. I don't understand the hate for Tua. I don't understand why you would hate such a great kid. Nobody's ever hated Jalen, so why did
these fans call for Greg McElroy's head when they went 10-3 the season after the national championship?
Yeah, exactly.
Or were they calling for his head during the national championship run whenever he hit that October to November slump?
Yeah, that slump.
And Mark Ingram was running the Wildcat against South Carolina. Were you calling for his head then?
Exactly. Because who was going to go in then? Freshman A.J. McCarron? That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, go kick rocks. You're not real Bama fans. You don't understand football. And if you have a problem with it, then maybe you should talk to the greatest football coach of all time.
Yeah, since
You
you
know
know
so
e-
much about football.
people are entitled to have opinions on sports. That doesn't mean that you know football. I mean, just because you can have an opinion on football, and these are people will say, well, because somebody will say, well, why don't you just take that up with Coach Saban? And somebody will say, well, I can have opinions. I don't have to be Coach Saban to have opinions. No, you don't have to be. But you know, if you ain't never played or you don't really understand the nuances of football, you don't even have to necessarily play football. But
Tua did not give up 44 points to Clemson.
exactly. It's all about Tua lost that game 44-16. No, Alabama
Yeah.
lost the game
So
44 to
okay. So
16.
he threw a pick six. All right. So how about the 300 and some odd yards that Trevor Lawrence shredded Alabama's defense on, or how they quit pressuring him, and then all of a sudden he just had all day to stand back there and
It's gotten
throw.
ridiculous. It's a casual football fan push thing, and it's a media push thing that one person loses the entire game. It's an 11 on 11 game. There's 22 players, 11 on each side, out on the field supposed to be at every single play. 11 players have got to do what they're supposed to do in order to win the game. It's not one person losing the game. It's never been about one
And a
person
whole
losing the
coaching
game.
staff that has to prepare him to do that.
Just like if a game comes down to a field goal kick and that kicker misses a field goal kick, he didn't lose the game.
That you should not
The right answer is the coach will go to the media and say the game shouldn't have came down to a
That's
kick. We should have
exactly
had
right.
it won.
Yep.
So
And even with the Bears and them beating the crap out of Cody Parkey, right?
yeah,
You should have never been in that spot to begin
should
with.
have been in that position.
You were at home field. That kid, yeah, he has one job to do, but you shouldn't have been there.
It's like
You
if
went and drafted a quarterback or was it number 2 overall? It started 1 year
exactly
in college, and what do you expect?
exactly.
Go
It's
kick
like
rocks. Go kick rocks.
it's like if next year in the Iron Bowl it comes down to Joseph Bulovas kicking a field goal to win or to lose, and he misses it and they lose. Well, it's not Joseph Bulovas' fault that we lost the game. It's the team's fault that we were in that position.
Wasn't Cade Foster's fault we lost 9-6?
Yeah, and definitely wasn't Adam Griffith's fault when we lost on the kick six. Everybody acted like it was his fault and told him to go kill himself after the game. It's like, what are you kidding me?
If you say things like this over a game, and let's be honest, unless you are a coach or you are a player in the game or sports in general, if you're a college athlete or a professional athlete, outside of that, if you get so mad that you throw a remote through your TV or you threaten somebody or tell somebody to go kill themselves and you're going to murder their kids, you need to reevaluate your life.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's just a game.
Soon before something really bad happens and you end up in prison or something, or you end up dead. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. But I had to get that off my chest.
It's just everybody have an opinion and wanting to voice their opinion and feel like they have something important to say, and that just segues into another topic of AB and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh my goodness. I'll start this off by saying there's actually one person that agreed with AB. And it's weird because it's a guy that went to an Ivy League school and played football. Marcellus Wiley. He's an analyst on Fox Sports and he used to play in the NFL. He used to be a good player in the NFL. He used to be on Sports Nation on ESPN a long time ago. He played at one of the Ivy League schools. I forget which one it is, Columbia or something like that. He literally said that Juju's picture that he picked out of him making that catch in the first place with Antonio Brown in the background was deliberately picked out to single out Antonio Brown. And he was like, nobody sees this, but I do. And I was like, you got to be joking. And somebody wrote up an entire article about, are you freaking kidding me? Because the reason why he picked out that picture out of 1,000 pictures is because that was the most important catch he had made to that point in his entire career. Why wouldn't he choose it? So anybody that agrees with what Antonio Brown's doing and Antonio Brown's little beef and him sharing direct messages where Juju was just trying to ask him questions to get better, a sad life you must live when you got $75 million or whatever coming to you and you're so upset and trying to pick and choose a friggin' argument with somebody that had just done nothing but respect you the entire time. Done nothing but respect you, wish the best for you, seems to be a pretty humble, hardworking kid, and you're going to sit there and you're going to talk about him like that. And you know, sad life Antonio Brown must lead. I was a huge Antonio Brown fan, but I've lost all respect for him. I was hoping he would do good with the Raiders. Now I don't care. I don't care what happens
There
to
was
him.
a player who played at Pittsburgh when they drafted him, and I forget who he was because he's been on that. He's been on
On
several.
Fox Sports or whatever.
Yeah,
You might be talking about James Harrison.
the defensive lineman.
Yeah.
No, it's not him. He's an offensive player. I can't remember his name, but he said it this isn't the first time he said this. Like back when AB was starting to be a problem.
I know Ryan Clark said he wasn't a good human being, but Ryan Clark's a defensive player.
It might have been Ryan Clark.
Defensive back.
I don't know if it was an offensive player, but he played with AB early on in his career, and he told the coaching staff, he said, if you pay him more money, he will be a problem. You need to get him out of here.
Yeah, I think that was Ryan Clark. Or it was somebody. And then Rashard Mendenhall, he used to be a running back for the Steelers a few years ago. He was the running back in the 2010 Super Bowl when they played Green Bay. He came out and said, okay, I'm wrong. Marcellus Wiley and Rashard Mendenhall are the only two that have come out and defended him that I know of. And Rashard Mendenhall comes out and says, calls Big Ben a racist. And I was like, you gotta be joking. Okay, Big Ben's a racist. That's why all the offensive players are white. It's like, are you serious right now? I mean, are you kidding me? You know, and then he comes back like a few tweets later and says, Big Ben's not really a racist. Then why did you say it in the first place?
I don't understand I'm glad that, and it'll probably change. And some of I think it was Skip and Shannon were saying that you watch out for the Steelers next year because they don't have any baggage.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that people don't understand. They're like, you got rid of your two best players, Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. Well,
sometimes
how can they be your two best players? Now, Antonio Brown might have been, I would say honestly, probably the best player on Pittsburgh's team at that point, just because of how great he has been. I mean, he's been spectacular. The stats don't lie. Le'Veon Bell didn't even play at all last year. How can he be one of the two best players on the team? He didn't do anything last year.
I saw something on LinkedIn the other day, and it said sometimes as an employer you need to fire your best employee because if the work environment is toxic by one person, then it ruins it for everybody.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? The Steelers, they got rid of two absolute prima donna players. They do deserve money, but the Steelers don't have to be the organization that gives it to them. I mean, that's just
not when you got younger guys that are doing just as good.
Exactly. It's called business. The NFL is a business, and if you want somebody else to pay you money, get traded or go into free agency.
L. Bell missed out on a ton of money.
Yep, L. Bell just sat out the entire year because he didn't want the wear and tear, and now everybody's like, that was the greatest decision L. Bell's ever done. Well, what if he doesn't come back? What if he comes back and he's lethargic and fat?
Well, they said he'd put on weight.
I mean, you got to get way back in shape, and then you got. Not only do you have to get back in regular shape, you got to get back into football shape.
Football shape is different.
Yeah, football shape is different. Exactly, like you said. Athlete shape is your body has got to get acclimated to the game, and football is probably the worst sport to have to get acclimated back to. So, Jets fans, you better hope Le'Veon Bell does. If he does, that's fantastic. But we didn't want him anyway. He has already caused so much drama over the past two seasons. I can attest to myself as a Steelers fan. I didn't want him back, but because I would rather just go with James Conner and Jalen Samuels and call it a day.
It just warms my heart. It almost makes me cry just how everything's played out for James Conner.
James Conner, it's wonderful, and people are like, James Conner's got a mullet, James Conner has a mullet because he's from Pittsburgh, and back in the day, Pittsburgh, they had a culture called the Yinzer culture in Pittsburgh, and people would like grow out these mullets, like these curly mullets or whatever. and he's got that grown out for Pittsburgh because that's that. I mean, it's going back to the city's culture. Back in the day in the NHL, back in like the '90s, there was a great player for the Pittsburgh Penguins named Jaromir Jagr that had the exact like curly mullet because it was a symbol of the culture of Pittsburgh. And this dude was from the Czech Republic or whatever. You know, he just got to the United States and he embraced that culture. And it's cool to see somebody like that 20 years later, you know, after Jaromir Jagr had done it a long time ago, seeing a guy from a major sports team in Pittsburgh do it again. And it happens to be James Conner, who played at the University of Pittsburgh and is pretty much their favorite son at this point.
He went to school, like high school in Pittsburgh, didn't
I
he?
think so. He may have.
Like I think he stayed in Pittsburgh his entire
And I mean, he
sports
is,
life.
you know, and he's the man. And they're trying to talk about, you know, he's got fumbleitis problems, and then Juju had fumbleitis problems. That can be corrected.
Yeah, but also you can point if you're going to play that game, then Big Ben is the
Big Ben throws interceptions left and right in the red zone.
He doesn't ever hold himself accountable for anything.
And
he always
never
pushes the
does.
blame off on other people. So,
And I'm not sitting here saying that Big Ben is a great leader, and I'm not saying that Antonio Brown is completely wrong about Big Ben. He's probably got a lot of things right about Big Ben. Big Ben is an Aaron Rodgers lookalike. It looks like he's not a great leader. You know, you would rather have somebody else in a leadership position than him. He doesn't really take responsibility for a lot of his actions. You know, I'm not saying that. I ain't saying Big Ben is this great and wonderful person. I think he is a crappy leader when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm sure he doesn't hold a candle to how Aaron Rodgers is as far as not being a good leader.
Absolutely.
And throwing the locker room around and stuff. But
so, you know, it's not about defending Ben in any way, but it is about quit being ridiculous to a kid that, you know, looked up to you and just, you know, wanted the best for you. You know, if it actually did come out that he was, you know, just that he hated an AB or something like that, you're talking about Juju, you know, that would be a little different. But everything indicates that it was completely the opposite. And AB's just is acting like a bitter old hag at this point.
I saw something that said AB stands for always bitching.
Yep, that's pretty likely. I mean, he did that even, you know, we look past it as Steelers fans because, you know, he's amazing. I mean, he's amazing. He's a 6th-round pick. I mean, he's got 10,000 yards in his career. He's amazing. He's best receiver in the league as of right now. But, you know, he's a crybaby, and he's been that way for a long time. He's always been a diva. So, we're coming up on our 30 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through rapid fire.
I got one. We've pretty much covered all the topics that I want to discuss, and you know, I always try to have a topic that is not so much current events in football that we talk about. But one is that I see whether it's the SEC teams or the Clemson or any of the Power Five playing these FCS opponents, and why they play so many every year. And I know that, maybe so much for the SEC, it's because of how tough the conference is.
Mm.
You can't play tough teams year round just because of health reasons. Maybe that's not true, but that's my opinion. But I just want to know why we play 2 to 3 FCS opponents a year, and why do all the teams do? Because now it's starting to become evident that in the playoffs, the better your resume is the better chance you have of getting a seed.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that I will say, and Nick Saban has talked about it too, the money that these FCS teams get from playing these guys in these glorified scrimmages, it helps their programs a long way. And so I'm not saying, you know, so I think that, you know, it doesn't hurt for every team to, you know, play an FCS team just because if they're paying them a lot of money.
I know they get paid retarded.
You know,
it's like when Alabama A&M plays Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, it helps their programs out a lot. Now, playing them and then playing 2 lesser FBS teams like New Mexico State, like Alabama's playing next year, that's kind of getting ridiculous. I think everybody should have to play somebody. I think all the tough teams in the nation should have to play somebody tough at the beginning of the year, because even if you lose that game, the season's not over. The season ain't over anymore. What Clemson did either Clemson or Alabama was going to do it. Clemson happened to be the team that did it. 15-0 is just unprecedented. That does not happen. I mean, now the teams have the opportunity to, but it's really hard to go 15-0. Like, your standard national champion now has got a loss. And even if you go back to 2007, LSU had 2 losses when they won the national title. It's hard to go undefeated. People don't realize that. It's really hard to go undefeated. It's hard to keep that focus that entire year. So a loss is not derailing anymore like it used to be. It used to be that the winners were usually undefeated. Now national champions are usually got a loss. I mean, that's just how it's been.
I mean, Saban only has one undefeated national champion.
Yeah, so it's not like the season's over if you lose in that first game. You may need that lesson, like they've been talking about at Alabama. Saban said we probably should have lost a game during the year. There's probably a few games we should have lost. You know, sometimes a team needs that, and that's the thing. If Alabama loses early on in the year, you better look out because they're fixing to come back and they're probably going to win the national championship. But the thing that scares me more is when they're undefeated on the way up to the national championship because it seems like they cannot close it out.
Yeah, I agree. The 2013 Bama team, when that's the year of the kick six, that I only watched half of that game, thankfully.
Yeah.
I felt like Bama played tight.
They did. To lose. They were playing nervous. I mean, that's what it felt like. And then
in the 2012 game when Manziel came in and wrecked House, that changed how that just changed the dynamic of that team.
Absolutely.
So I agree. There should be more home and home series.
Yeah,
home and away series.
I absolutely think so. There needs to be home and home series that get planned out, and that's the thing. Like, Alabama's doing it with Oklahoma, but God, it's going to be 13 and 14 years in the future. Which all the schedules are pretty much made out at this point for years in the future now. But
and one thing that people don't understand is when Bama plays these teams at the beginning of the season, they were probably ranked when they scheduled them. So 13 years from now, Alabama might not be anything, and Oklahoma might be the powerhouse.
Yep, or it could be the opposite way. Alabama could still be going, and Lincoln Riley's left, and Oklahoma's not doing well.
And I don't know whenever the Florida State game was in the Chick-fil-A kickoff bowl. I don't know when that game was scheduled, but it might have been scheduled when Florida State was on a hot run.
Well, they if you remember, they were still ranked in the top 10 when we played them. It's just they had a bad season after we played them. They were still a top 10 team.
Quarterback got hurt, didn't he?
Yeah, DeAndre Francois got hurt, and they had essentially nobody behind him because they were terrible. But they were ranked in the top 10 when we played them. I mean, and it just happened that they sucked, and then everybody was like, well, Alabama just got off easy playing an easy team at the beginning of the year. No, Florida State if that quarterback wouldn't have got hurt at full strength, they would have been a pretty decent team, probably an 8-4, 9-3 team. But they kind of showed when he went down. They kind of showed their true colors that year.
I don't understand. I understand the teams get money and get exposure to their programs, but I just don't understand why we have to play these 2 and 3 nobodies when we could be. Which I know these schedules have been made way before the games are ever played, but why not play a blue chip program?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for it, honestly. They should.
I mean, we played Penn State 2
Alabama,
years in a row.
Alabama should, and they're not. They're playing like Duke. They're playing Duke at the beginning of the year, and David Cutcliffe has done a great job with Duke's program, but Duke is not going to beat Alabama.
Well, it's like when Oklahoma and Ohio State did the home and home series.
Exactly.
Like that was listening to Baker talk about how they lost in Norman and went to OU and went and beat them in Columbus, how it changed the dynamic of their team and how it made them a better team and preparing to go up there and beat them.
Yeah.
I think it creates better competition because you're saying, well, we're not playing some bottom tier SEC team in our conference or whatever. It just makes competition better. And and you could say, well, the best teams are going to play each other in the playoffs. But if you are a good team like Alabama, you get everybody's best majority of the time if the team doesn't quit. So that argument can't be made.
I don't have any argument that defends Alabama's schedule at all. I've been a proponent of they need to play tougher teams. I mean, they need to play at least one tougher team, per year. I mean, you can still play like two cupcakes or so, to help their programs out. But
hey, lately the SEC competition has not been good, so
exactly.
I mean,
So you need to play somebody tough. You just got to play somebody tough. That's all there is to it. I don't have an argument for why Alabama does it, and they need to change it up a little bit. But so NFL draft is April 25th. The first round's going to be coming on. Kyler Murray's going first overall to the Cardinals.
You think so?
I think it's absolute.
I think Quinn Williams going to go number 2.
Quinnen Williams, I believe, is going number 2.
Joey Bosa will probably go.
Nick Bosa will go
I'm sorry.
3rd, and that's one thing that I'll just be rapid fire on. I told you about it about a week ago. I think Nick Bosa is going to be a great player. I think that his ceiling is going to be a player like his brother, who is really good. Quinnen Williams, though, I do believe Quinnen Williams will be great, but I believe Quinnen Williams' ceiling is Aaron Donald. Now Kyler Murray ceilings are really tall for him. But
I see what you did there.
I think the thing is they have to reform the offense entirely around him. It's going to be harder for him to go under center and take steps back and try to throw timing routes and stuff.
Then again, this offense that Cliff runs, I know you can't run what you run in college in the pros. However, this quarterback could make Cliff's entrance to the NFL maybe a little more easy for him. And
yeah, I mean they're going to come out and just about 100% shotgun anyway. I mean that's just going to be what Cliff runs. And the thing is everybody's like, well, Cliff is trying to bring his college offense in. Cliff used to play in the NFL. People. I mean, he wasn't good. I mean, he was a 3rd stringer or whatever, but he sat on the bench with Tom Brady. He used to, he was in New England for a year or 2. He knows all the NFL concepts, and he's going to add them into and sprinkle his little flavor on it. But they are going to come out of shotgun 99.9% of the time because that's just what Cliff does. He's one of those that they can be on the 1-yard line and come out in shotgun, which I think is stupid. I think if you're on the 1-yard line, you need to be able to hammer it in I formation. But, what do I know? Apparently that's the old way of doing things. You got to come out and shotgun 5 wide on the 1-yard line now.
Because the Seahawks a Super Bowl.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think Kyler Murray's going first overall. It's going to be exciting though. I love the NFL draft. I
usually keep you updated anyways. If you're doing something, I'm the little draft reporter.
Yeah.
I hope Kyler does go to Arizona because I think that's probably the best fit for him.
Yeah, and I hope Arizona does well. I hope they pick him, and I hope they do well. I'm not saying I don't dislike Kyler Murray in any way. It's just I don't dislike him because they didn't beat Alabama. If they would have beat Alabama, I would have been like, oh, I really don't like Kyler Murray. But if they do great, they do great. I think he's definitely a better option to go with than Josh Rosen. And also, I think Arizona deserves success. And you also have to remember Pat Tillman played for the Cardinals too. Mm-hmm. So, I always have a little bit of a soft spot for Arizona.
But I think it's going to be interesting because it's not a herd of great quarterbacks coming into this draft.
No, definitely not.
And some people have said that Will Greer is going to go to the Giants.
I hope not. Will Greer, I don't see Will Greer as a top tier quarterback. Now, I mean, I'm open to being wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong or not, but I don't see Will Greer. And for that matter, maybe I shouldn't be an NFL GM. Maybe I get more wrong than not. But they're talking about Daniel Jones out of Duke. I think he's a smart kid, but I'm not seeing it with him. I'm not seeing it with Drew Lock. I'm not seeing it with Will Greer. I think Dwayne Haskins' footwork is going to have to be improved on a lot before he can be better.
A lot of people are kind of, from what I've gathered, some people are kind of backing off that high horse that they had Dwayne Haskins on, and maybe putting Kyler on the high horse.
Yeah. Kyler's the best quarterback in the draft, regardless of what anybody says, even if he is somewhat, even if he is Peter Dinklage, he's still.
He's the same height as Russell Wilson though. Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's still just he looks really diminutive, and all that weight that everybody's talking about that
was
was
water
so
he drank.
fantastic. All it is water weight. He's going to go back down to 195, and that's just going to be how it is. He is rather diminutive. He's like Doug Flutie, but Doug Flutie had a pretty successful career
I wish him
overall.
nothing but the best. I look forward to the day like when these giant quarterbacks that suck that everybody praises.
Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles, that one dude from Buffalo that's in the draft.
Tyree Jackson.
Yeah, like people like
Tyree Jackson's an automatic bust wherever you pick him because that 6'7" is just too tall at quarterback at this point. He may be athletic or whatever, but it's too tall. Like there's no documented success of 6'7" and higher being a successful NFL quarterback. Go to the Ryan Malletts and the Brock Osweilers and all that. They're just Mike Glennons. They're just too tall. And like I was talking about the last time, Mark McGuire's brother, Dan McGuire, he was 6'8" when he got picked, and he never did anything. So yeah, hopefully Kyler Murray will do great. I'm 100% sure he's going to get picked by the Cardinals. If he doesn't, that's going to be a big wow. But hopefully he does well with the Cardinals. Hopefully Quentin Williams does well. Hopefully all the teams that are picking early pick somebody good that gets them back in a contendership here really quickly.
And for the first time in forever, the Browns are not picking a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just say the Steelers pick around 22nd, I think. If Devin Bush, the linebacker from Michigan, he's shortish at linebacker, 5'11" or so, about 230 pounds. Dude runs like a 4.45 in the 40 time or something like that. If Devin Bush falls to the Steelers at wherever they're picking 22 or whatever, I want Devin Bush because I think he's a good replacement for Shazier.
So do you have any more topics?
No.
All right, I
think it's about time to blow this joint.
I think so too. We just, like I said, we just wanted to give you guys an update, pre-draft, post 8-day games, and to let you guys know we have not died.
Yep, so, we are not dead. We'll see you guys later, you beautiful people.
All right, see you guys.